Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ready, Set, Action. It's your weekly guide to navigating the world of business growth. I'm Kristina Witmer, a marketing veteran, and this is my co host, Debra Horowitz, a talent leader. Each week, we bring some actionable tips and insights specifically designed for business owners, as well as directors of marketing and sales. We're going to discuss growth topics and some strategies to help your business thrive. Welcome to our special guest this week, Apryl Ward, Global Director at Cogent, an expert in ISP services, colocation, fiber networks, and business connectivity. That is a lot. So if you want to say hello, Apryl, introduce yourself. We have some questions for you today.
Sure. I'm Apryl Ward. Thank you for the introduction. I have been in the tech space. October will be my 25-year anniversary. So I'm thinking a party is due for that, right?
Absolutely. Is
I
everyone invited?
of course, of course. But the thing that I love about technology is that I can touch a million different kinds of companies and really have, if I'm lucky, have in-depth conversations with them, with prospects or customers about their business. And then it's my job to wrangle the technical resources, some people call them engineers, to really put a solution or a long-term plan in place. And without technology, where would we be in 2025? We would not be on this podcast.
Very true. I wouldn't be, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thank you for that intro.
Sure thing.
It's telecommunications is such an important part of everything, but especially business, right? I mean, being able to get on social media, being able to communicate with our customers and our prospects, just like you were saying. But what struck me from your opening was that you do the wrangling, so we don't have to come to you and say, we know exactly what is going to solve our needs, and we're looking more at you as, I guess, a vendor to compare prices or something like that. But you are actually the subject matter expert that we can rely on. So explain, give us a little bit more explanation about ISP and what benefits are there for us to, consider all of the things that ISP can do for us.
Sure. I want to step back for half a second. When you talk about me wrangling the vendors and you don't have to go out and do that part of it, the truth of the matter is everyone has varying degrees of technical expertise. So oftentimes I will have conversations with prospects and they don't even know what they don't know. And that is very common in my industry. But it can lead to frustration and they just they just want to know that they're spending the right amount of money for what they have so they can earn a living. So I think the fact that I am fluent in understanding, kind of asking those questions to really dig down and then turning to a more technical person and having a technical conversation, then coming back to you. Because Deb, the truth is every single person that I've met in the 25 years I've been doing this, they want the same exact thing. They just want to know that it works and that they're spending, a fair amount of money for it. But to your question about the ISP space, and that stands for Internet Service Provider. And I will say that in 2025, yes, we have Google that will tell us everything. And now we've got AI on top of that, which is even more robust and such a, I mean, that is really the buzzword today. But I will say that when it comes to running a business, you would not you would not be risky with other aspects of your business, like as far as the location or maybe the people that you hire to represent your brand, right? But when it comes to the internet service, oftentimes people try to be as thrifty as they can. They want the cheapest thing they can. And it's unfortunate because they don't realize the overall impact on people in the world who don't know them that are trying to get to them. If you've got a horrible internet connection, it's going to tell. It's going to be seen. It's going to be known. So oftentimes, I like to present myself as a strategist. I understand that money does not flow freely for everybody. So let's talk about your budget. Let's talk about where you want to be. Let's talk about compliance, cybersecurity, how your employees use the internet. And then I would make suggestions as to what the best path is for you. Now the 20 plus years I've been doing this, I have never been in the residential space. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just that what I am best skilled to do is to speak with businesses of all sizes, international, small, mom and pop. Um, but it really is about protecting the ability to earn an income to make sure that things are in place. I've met people, I've met many people that drive six-figure cars. They cost six figures and they're beautiful and fast. And hey, can I have a ride? But they'll have a coax connection, which is a residential grade product. And now we're all doing Zoom calls and we're doing all this stuff. And they're mad at the internet connection, not realizing you have made a bad choice. And let's talk about maybe rectifying that. So whenever it comes to the internet service provider, I believe you really should pick a company that is in line with the type of business that you're running. If you are selling, I'm from Dallas, Texas. That's where I was born and raised, so I can talk about Mary Kay Ash. But if you're selling Mary Kay and you just have a handful of phone calls that you make and maybe one or two videos from home, so be it. Have a coax connection or a shared fiber connection. But if you're spending money on commercial real estate and people are making a commute, have dedicated connectivity. Make it to where they can work when they're at work.
It's good.
Yeah.
You got me rethinking like everything.
I mean, it always comes down to money. It always comes down to money. And people say, well, I just don't want to spend, whatever the number is, But they want it. They just don't want to spend the money. So I try to find the budget to make it happen.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. There's a disconnect between understanding the real value of what it looks like when you don't have the level you need to project.
Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. So anyway, not to get too sidetracked, but so I was going to ask you about co-location a bit. So that's, there's all these things that I know you know a lot about, but when it comes to co-location, like when does that make sense for a business? And, like what does that make? What does it mean?
Well, we all know that that COVID impacted the world and how the world operates. And that was a perfect time for any business owner, any enterprise organization to really reevaluate what their spend is on commercial real estate, especially with people being at home or being forced to work from home. So that makes perfect sense. So you've got a closet at in Suite 1200 that has, I don't even know how much money can be in those closets. It's a lot. And instead of having it reside in a place that's basically a vacant building, a co-location facility has secured power. It has stable, dedicated internet connections from various providers. And then the actual space itself is secured. So co-location is really simple. It's space, power, and then connectivity. That's it. The different types of colocation facilities are all over the map. We have some that are high-end real estate, and, those are the people that have the fast cars I was talking about. And then we have startup businesses that don't have the budget for that, and maybe they just have a couple $100 a month to spend on securing their environment so they can build their business. The company that I work for today, Cogent Communications, I sold against them forever because I've been in the industry so long, thinking that I knew what Cogent was, and I was wrong. I've been here 13, 14 months now, and we are the largest provider of carrier neutral data center connectivity. So we are in more than 1,800 other people's data centers where we can provide connectivity. And then on top of that, we have 104 data centers that we own and manage. The
Wow.
104, it seems like a small number, but that's close to $2 million in square footage that we have with available power across the country. Now, I think there's like 74 or 75 in the US, and then we have some European data centers. But that's pretty phenomenal. And here in the Houston market, so we have COVID, but then we have storms. We have named storms that blow through town and mess everything up. Another perfect opportunity to move your data, your livelihood, your company to a secure location.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be in Houston. Some people want it in Houston. It can be pick a spot, and we're probably there.
And that usually means there's like this backup redundancy thing, which is where you get to, your stuff is so much more safe than when you hold on to it somehow yourself, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And I think I'm in Florida, so I think that, that those types of those types of issues need to be thought through, because there have been times where the areas have been impacted, by hurricanes or tornadoes, and all of a sudden you don't have a company anymore because you don't have access to anything anymore, and so that's a serious issue for business owners to really be thinking about. I'm thinking about this one commercial that I see almost every night about fiber networks coming to this small town and changing their entire lives, right? So, what does having access to fiber networks actually do for business operations?
Well, even outside of business operations, there's a huge push, specifically in the US right now, for all of these rural areas to get funding from the government to expand their network so they can go into, multifamily, individual homes, and school districts, smaller areas that don't have the cosmopolitan effect of Dallas or Houston. And those companies, those smaller internet providers that are in those rural areas, they still have to get their access from someone. And guess who they get it from? Cogent, or companies like Cogent. So we are in the wholesale space and have been since day one. We do not market or advertise, which is why a lot of people in the commercial space maybe don't know who we are. But I can look and see who their internet provider is and see if they're a client. And I'm like, oh, you're already on our network. So I think that from an education standpoint, it's phenomenal to expand fiber out to where it's not today. And then for the small to medium sized business, to give them choices. My very first job in the industry was with a company where I sold AT&T services. We all know who AT&T is. And it was probably I don't want to say the worst experience, but it was so difficult because a company can be too big. I could go and sell you, Deb, 5 phone lines with caller ID and DSL and call waiting, and I'd have 5 different departments installing the different pieces, and they don't talk to each other. So, realizing that I had 0 control over the back office, either influence or even just to have a conversation, I stepped away from AT&T and have not looked back. Now Cogent, now I say that, and Cogent is much larger, but they have their back office. I mean, it flows, and they have only been in business for commercial and never in the residential space. That makes a huge difference. You know, you've got 10,000 people that are residential clients, and then 2,000 that are commercial clients pulling from the same central office. You're also fighting for the same resources, for support, for billing, for customer care. And you just don't experience that with companies that are focused on businesses.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that part of the assessment process of who you're going to be partnering with gets overlooked until something goes wrong or you need that customer support, and then you figure out that the buck gets passed from department to department to department until you finally can have the resolution. So that's an interesting point.
So Apryl, I was wondering just could you run through a few like key considerations for businesses when they're looking at business connectivity or the solution, and maybe you can redefine for me just what all that is when we say business connectivity, because it sounds like it could be a lot or maybe it's not. So, but what are the considerations, and then what all does that include?
I think that based off of my experience, I believe that someone has to be responsible for doing due diligence anytime they're considering making a change for anything. I mean, we don't just show up to a car lot and say, hey, give me a car. I mean, we kind of know what it is that we want. And if I could do anything specifically for the SMB space, I would encourage people to find almost like a technology mentor, somebody that they can bounce things off of, and be open-minded. Because it does not matter to me that you started your business in 1978 whenever I was in elementary school. What matters to me is that you're still relying on some of the same technology that is no longer supported in 2025. So whenever I am in a competitive situation with maybe a regional carrier that started out in the voice space, I picture how much infrastructure people are having to manage and maintain and until it dies. Equipment has end of life. So if that's something that doesn't bother you, if you're a startup company and you're mom and pop, so be it. But if you have aspirations of being in 3, 5, 7, 10 states, or that you want to hit a certain number, have a technology mentor, somebody that can have conversations with you to help you map out what it is that you have to do. It was 2015 when you and I met, Kristina. And during that time, I had changed industries. I was working for a managed service provider at that time. Mm-hmm. And once we released a new website, the phone calls that we were getting from people that didn't know us, but they had been compromised in some cybersecurity fashion. I'm talking 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I sat and watched some people just close up shop and say, it's too much effort to fix it. I'm close to retiring. I'll just give up now. You really have to prepare for the what ifs. Mm-hmm. I treat every prospect as if I am that technology consultant or strategist. But, sometimes you're a used car salesman. Okay. But I think that's because if it's not broke, don't fix it. You should really be evaluating your technology spend at least once every 18 months, maybe once a year. And it's not just about the cost. People will spend more money if they know that the phone's going to be answered, if they know that the service is going to be up and running, and they know that they're a priority. You're not going to get that with some of these other companies. And that's just because they're just too big.
Yeah.
So get a mentor. Get a mentor.
Get a mentor.
Yeah.
that's really important. And to that end, looking across challenges, what do you see after, through all of your years of experience, are some of the biggest challenges that businesses face when they're looking at that infrastructure of the ISP and the network?
The ISP and the network is one component of it, and it is really important. It's kind of the gas that makes the car go, but you also have to be mindful of the data at which you collect on a daily basis to run your company, how you store it, how your employees, you need to be consistent, because there will come a point where you've got 10, 20, 30 years worth of data that are in filing cabinets, and now you want to sell to all those people. And how do you do that? Well, this is a digital age, and you really need to have accurate data to be able to grow and project from. I worked on another big project with Kristina in 21, 22, and that was really where I understood the importance of having accurate data. You can have 30,000 companies that you think are your clients, but guess what? Bob doesn't work there anymore. Michelle doesn't work there anymore. And oh, hey, their email, so the having accurate data as well as having a stable connection are probably the two best things for any company. I don't even know if I answered your question. Did I answer your question, or did I go off on a tangent?
No, I think you did. I think you brought up the data part, which I don't even know if we were headed that way, but it's huge. I mean, people, they with a lot of things, they think that having X amount of names is by default valuable, when it's sometimes it might take you so much time to go through and only find there's this tiny portion. It wasn't worth it. So no,
Right.
I think you did. That is the challenge, and then for the network as well. So I'd like to just any thoughts on trends. So I don't know if you've seen some things. I'm sure you see webinars and conferences more than we do for this type of stuff. But what's emerging in this space, like in the broad connectivity space? Like, what are trends happening, especially as there's sort of this hybrid work environment? Anything you've seen?
Well, I will say that cybersecurity is not going away, and it should be a top 2 to 3 priority for any business owner, period. And if you are not spending time to try to figure out how to best secure your environment and your data, then you're going to work every day in a convertible without an umbrella and hoping it doesn't rain, because at some point it will happen. So that is incredibly important. The other thing, have y'all heard of AI? Do y'all know about that?
What's that?
Nope, never heard of it.
I thought it was owl. What is that?
I know. A1?
One, yes.
The thing about AI is that everyone uses it today. A year ago, I would have argued with you because I did not use it a year ago. But now, not only does everyone use it, but people that are responsible for managing networks, for making sure that all the employees can work, they're finding out about it because it's impacting the network. They don't have enough bandwidth. They don't have the ability to access cloud-based applications in a way for them to do their job efficiently, because they're putting in a little AI in the middle of it. So I believe that in the next, I don't know what the time frame will be, but these network administrators, the people that are responsible for making sure that everybody can work all the time, they will start to wrangle. That's my word of the day. They will start to manage and get more on top of the applications that are used, just so it doesn't become a security risk. I mean, because there's that as well. And then paired with AI, it uses so much more power. And because of that, that's why another reason why a data center is going to be more attractive than having, a small shared workspace at a cool building that's downtown. Um, I mean, every data center that I know that I personally work with here in Houston, a lot of them are completely out of space or power or both. And I'm like, well, how do you handle that? They build other data centers. So if you have a client that is so energy heavy and they're going to use more electricity than everybody else, then you really have to forecast and kind of look at the capacity of that space. So ask those questions initially. You know,
Mhm.
do you have available power? Do you have available space? And now, what if I need to have a backup data center? So let's say I have one in Houston, but I need one in Chicago, or I need one in Silicon Valley. How do you make that happen? Something else that a technology strategist can help you with. It's called layer one or optical waves. Yes, we do that. But it's just really cool to see how robust a company can be in preparation for the trends that are happening. And that's what's exciting to me because I've done this for a long time, but I'm in a position where I get to learn. And if I'm not learning, then I'm going to be bored. So I'm pleased with the fact that I get to witness what's happening with AI and with the need for more data center space. I don't
Yeah.
know. Was that good?
Oh,
Yes.
no, that's cool. I think with, cybersecurity, AI, those are things that are being talked about so often these days among business owners. And I'm wondering, you really gave us a lot to chew on with that last answer, and I think maybe you have already answered this through that last answer, but are there other advice that you would give to the small business owner that could help them improve their reliability or their speed with their internet?
Yes. A small business entrepreneur probably wears 18 hats. I'm just guessing, but it's a lot. And they have a hard time with delegating anything. They want their hands in everything and they want it to be their decision for everything. So, again, if it's not broke, why am I going to try to fix it? My suggestion to those people, when your phone rings, when you get an email, when you get a piece of mail that says, "Hey, my name is Apryl Ward and I'd like to have a conversation with you about," entertain it. What do you have to lose? Have a 5 minute, 10-minute conversation with whomever is calling you and make sure that what it is that you have today is sufficient. Learn the tough questions that you have to ask to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. Like, how do you handle customer care? What can I expect when my internet goes down? What do I do when my internet goes down? Can I call now and see if somebody actually answers the phone? You would be shocked at how few companies actually answer the phone today. How are people out in the world going to find you? So I think that there is almost people are very dismissive with people that are like myself that are out there trying to spread the word about technology and how it can be X, Y, and Z for your organization. But if you're happy being in your little shell, so be it. Then say that. But I think smart business people will invest a little bit of time and put it on your calendar. And here's the other thing when it comes to cybersecurity, disaster recovery, those things have to be tested on a regular basis. So you can put a plan in place, but if you're not testing it, how do you know it works?
Good point.
So get a mentor, have conversations with people, because there's no way that any one person is going to know everything about tech. And getting experience from outside influences can sometimes be the best thing ever.
That's awesome. April, you really spurred me to be thinking about some things that I need to address. So I really appreciate how you broke it down to different sizes of business and how you can just start to tackle some of these things because you're right. I mean, just pretending things aren't out there is not
Yeah.
going to work until it's, done. So, yeah.
Well, and Kristina, I hope that I am your technology strategist.
You are.
You can call me for anything, and I'll give you the 411.
Okay.
I'll tell you what's good, bad, and keep it where it is.
Deal.
Well, I think I'm going to adopt you too, April.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your time, April. It's no joke, really helpful to hear this stuff. So, Deb, did we cover your questions today?
Yes. How about yours? All done?
So. Although now I have more, but I'll have to wait. So awesome. So thank you to everyone listening. We hope you found today's episode really helpful. Thanks again to April for joining us and taking this time. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Spotify, and you will not miss an update of Ready, Set, Action. All right, take care.
Bye.